Now, I will state that some people are familiar with this process, so please be mindful of other people that may not be. So I apologise for information that you may already know. I'll move to the first slide. Of course, we need to start with acknowledgement of country, which is very important. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands, the elders past, present and emerging. In doing so, we acknowledge that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have a deep cultural, spiritual and historical connection to country. Thank you. Now, of course, why we're here today. As addressed on the screen, we're looking at a combination contract that has two categories for bulk fuels and fuel cards, and we'll go through the contract summary and tender and so forth. And over to the next screen. So, of course, we're looking, the purpose is to offer you an overview of the upcoming tender and to seek your valuable feedback as industry experts on both the tender itself and the specification. Your insights are vital to ensuring the relevance and quality of the tender. Therefore, we welcome any suggestions for the new, obviously, the new revised components. And of course, your tender participation is what we need. We'd greatly appreciate any feedback as to why this opportunity also does not appeal to you, to understand the reason of your position. Also, it helps us with refining our processes, ensuring future opportunities are better aligned to our requirements. Please keep in mind more specific details will be provided on the work required when a member engages in your services under the contract. At times, you may be required to provide quotes to members under this deed if you're successful. Moving on to the next slide. Oops, sorry. Now, I'll just walk through the agenda for today. Obviously, I'll give you an overview of Procurement Australia, what we do as a business. Secondly, we'll focus on the contract overview, the tender scope and process to give you an understanding of the key details of the contract obligations and important aspects of this tender. Next, we'll discuss how to work under the contract, and I'll share some tender hints to help streamline our approach and maximise chances of success. Lastly, as mentioned before, we'll open the floor to any questions or clarifications you may need. So over to the next slide. And just quite broadly, our fantastic logo, we've got to give you an overview of Procurement Australia. Again, for those who already know, just gives you confirmation of what we're about again. We're a national procurement solutions provider with a membership base of approximately 24,000 entities, and this is growing. This membership consists of organisations from sectors such as public, private, not-for-profit, education, health, aged care, church religious institutions. So quite large. Next slide. Bit about our history. So we were established by the City of Melbourne in 1985 and was known as the MAPS Group. Our organisation has undergone significant growth over the years and has allowed us to provide services to all governments and industries. In 2017, we acquired Church Resources, a specialist aggregator for the non-profit sector, as part of a strategic move to further diversify our offerings and allowed us to better serve a broader spectrum of our members. And today, we proudly operate under the name Procurement Australia. Back to the next slide. Just a brief overview of our summary of services on the screen. We seek to provide our members publicly tender standing offers contracts, such as what we're addressing today, bespoke client contracts, advisory consultancy, back-to-base online trading facilities, and direct supplier standing offers. Next screen. At Procurement Australia, we are dedicated to maintaining the utmost standards of quality to our members. We take pride in our ISO 9001 to 15 standard, and we're a testament to our unwavering commitment to excellence across all facets of our operations. All right, so looking at what are benefits to members, they can obviously include time and resource saving by eliminating the need for repetitive requests for tenders. Essentially, we save our members both time and resources. And of course, broad product offering. We provide our members a wide range of options. We've access to about approximately 25,000 contracts. So, of course, spanning from offerings from like bulk fuels as we're doing today, mobile bins, and so forth. We ensure our members have a wide range of options at their disposal. We also look at flexible contract arrangements. Members have the option to opt in at any time during the contract terms. And lastly, it's a compliant process we conduct for our members so that they can rest assured the process is aligned with public sector tendering requirements. So over to the next slide. Of course, the benefits we provide our suppliers. First and foremost, successful, become a pre-qualified and preferred panel status supplier. And by reducing the number of requests for tenders, it saves time and resources. Therefore, of course, improving resource allocation and operational efficiency for suppliers, hopefully such as yourself. And moving forward to also benefit is access to Procurement Australia members. Our suppliers gain access to an extensive network, as explained before, and this provides opportunities to showcase your products and services to our diverse member base. This can foster business growth and market expansion for our suppliers. Our dedicated sales team is continuously working to expand our member base, ensuring a robust pipeline of potential clients for suppliers. They actively engage with existing contracts to our members to maintain ongoing interest and visibility for the products and services offered. So over to the next slide. You can see this is the name of the new contract, bulk fuels and fuel card, the number, the term of the proposed contract is 2 years plus 2 one-year option extensions. We're looking to kick off next year, 1st of April 2025, and expires the 31st of March. So up to the next slide. Whilst the draft specifications are still under review, I do have an available copy for yourself. You just need to email me via the address on the screen. And of course, as mentioned earlier, your feedback and suggestions is greatly appreciated. If you can provide your suggestions as to how we've drafted that scope by Friday, the 23rd of August. That would be appreciated to ensure we're on track to meet the tender let period. Back to the next screen. Now, of course, tender objectives. Tender objectives we're focused on ensuring to deliver a public sector compliant tender process. As we're all about quality, we're aligning our processes with the Local Government Act. We're complying with New South Wales and ISO 9001-2015 standards. Of course, to ensure we're delivering the highest quality of results. Now, when it comes to the outcome of our contracts, our main goal is to provide the members of Procurement Australia highly skilled contractors who can handle whatever their needs are. We want to make sure our members have access to the best talent out there. We provide a centrally managed standing offer contract that also allows for requests for quote activity at any time for specific member requirements. This means we can respond quickly to the specific needs of our members, making the whole process smoother for everyone involved. Now, lastly, we're doing groundwork to pre-qualify members. This means we're making sure that they meet certain standards before they get involved in a contract. It's all making sure our members have access to reliable vendors, no matter what stage of the contract they're in. Essentially, we're aiming for compliance, quality, flexibility, and reliability in our tender process, and all to make sure our members get the best possible outcome. So to the next slide. Here we get into it. All right, so we've got the scope within this tender is divided within two categories. As mentioned earlier, we've listened to members, we've listened to the industry, and we're combining possibly bulk fuels, and we're looking for the other category of multi-branded fuel cards. So let's look at the first category. Category 1, bulk fuels. So this category consists of the provision and measurement of bulk fuel deliveries determined from the readings recorded from the location of the members' storage tanks. And of course, noting all the services by the suppliers need to be carried out in accordance with the relevant standards. One of such is, of course, AS 9440. For those industry, you know exactly what I'm talking to, and you're well experienced in that part. Over to the next slide. Of course, the types of fuels to be delivered, but of course not limited to, as shown here. Also, any additional offerings such as refueling, reporting data to the member would be something that you can speak to. Now, over to the next slide. So here we're looking at the category 2 now for multi-branded fuel cards. For this category, we seek for our members the opportunity to use the multi-branded fuel cards across more than one branded petrol station to purchase fuel, gas, and other products and services outlined in the specification. I've outlined here, this is a preference for suppliers, but they're not limited to the following outcomes. This is quite common in the industry, but we're just making sure that we're again meeting the needs of our members. So I'll give you a minute to just read that off the screen. And I'll move to the next screen. Now, of course, to support members, we seek the following desirable offers, but not limited to. So again, listening to members, what has worked on the previous contract and what we're looking to move forward with. So this is again outlined on the screen. You can have a moment to read that. But again, it will be spoken to within the draft specification if you want that after this presentation. Okay, moving on to the next screen. Now, the evaluation of award for those particularly not familiar, suppliers can tender for any one of the categories or a combination of the categories I've just mentioned. Evaluation and award will be on a category basis, and suppliers will be awarded by state or nationally as tendered. This is on the right, a draft example of what the criteria sub-criteria will be for this tender. This will be refined and obviously in the tender document once it's let. Over to the next slide. Okay, so this is not unfamiliar to many tender processes. Here we've got different parts of the tender structure, and I won't go through them prescriptively, but you can see information for tenders and then moving down to the actual deed and then the contract. So nothing unusual there. So moving to the next slide. Now, the returnable schedules may resemble the following on the screen. Although they're subject to finalisation, we do anticipate approximately 16 schedules, but I would point out some of these are just for, like the first one, Schedule 1, it is a signature and a date. So not to overwhelm you. It is to ensure that you can easily answer the questions we have and to put the best submission forward. So over to the next slide. As your tender manager, my responsibility is, of course, managing the tender event, overseeing all aspects of the process to ensure its smooth execution, and also calling for tenders and subsequently closing the tender within the specified time frame. Summarising and evaluating the received tender submissions, I'm carefully assessing each proposal against the predefined criteria. And lastly, developing a comprehensive contract award recommendation based on the evaluations of the tender submissions, ensuring alignment with the requirements and objectives of the procurement process. So, next slide. This does outline the tender and the contract responsibility of, PA, members, suppliers. So we've put the actions from start, usual process of call, receive tenders to actually award and monitoring of contract performance. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's what we do now. Here we go. This is the tender time table. As our industry briefing has taken place today, I hope that this briefing has served as a vital platform for gathering stakeholders and potential suppliers to share information and address any queries you have related to this tender. Please mark your calendars for the 18th of September. Most important date, we'll commence our advertising phase of this tender and release the documents. I urge all interested parties to thoroughly examine the documents and submit your proposals prior to and by the 16th of October. Strongly advise all parties to ensure they submit at the earliest convenience to avoid any complications uploading and any exclusion from consideration. Also, the award of the awarding supplies for this contract is proposed on Friday the 13th, funny enough, December. And finally, we're looking for the agreement to commence on the 1st of April 2025. I'll leave that with you to have a look at for a moment. And on to the next page. Okay, so tender documents can be only available via TenderLink, and this is very important, and not direct from Procurement Australia, myself or any of my colleagues. Once tenders questions can only be received via TenderLink. There's an online forum that is easy to use, and they won't be directed direct to myself. This ensures that all questions are answered fairly and openly to all prospective tenderers. A live tender is from the tender opening to close date. Last date for questions is the 9th of October 2014. Over to the next slide. As outlined on the screen, regarding all tender responses, you're required to submit in the signed format by the due date via TenderLink only. Please kindly do not embed links in your document. If you need to attach any information, kindly attach in Word, Excel, or PDF format. That sort of goes without saying. We don't want documents to be corrupted. So that's quite straightforward. Over to the next slide. Of course, the tender evaluation report. So as explained here, at the conclusion of any evaluation conducted by Procurement Australia, we'll produce the evaluation report for our members. So as outlined on the screen, this gives a summary of the event, the evaluation, all the technical, financial, consolidated scoring. So we're quite transparent in informing you of this, and also ensuring that you're aware that the members do get this. And this is not unusual. This has been going on for some time. So the key elements, of course, is, as it states, suppliers will have a summary of all the submissions. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So for those who are familiar with Procurement Gateway, and of course people who are not in this session, Procurement Gateway is a platform for us to support our members to fulfil their individual procurement requirements. So members, of course, view all the categories, all the contracts, orders, supplies, all the details. And this is, of course, how they conduct their requests for quotes, by inviting panel suppliers within the system. So they'll get a log on and obtain that information at all times. Once they're interested in engaging with a supplier, they will opt in. Over to the next slide. And of course, how to work under this contract. If you're a successful contractor, members who would like to use your services, as stated in the previous slide, will log into the Procurement Gateway system and notifying you via email of their interest. So they'll opt in, and then you'll be able to get an email from them. And that's how they'll touch base with you. Here's a diagram so you can understand the workflow of this process. Over to the next slide. Here we have the description of the weighting assessment tool. So members have access to the weighting assessment tool. It allows members to adjust their weightings of the criteria used during the evaluation, but not just the criteria itself. And this depends on the individual weighting requirements. So, of course, each member has their own preference of how to weight requirements. So we've given this option in Gateway. Moving on to the next slide. Under the Procurement Panel contract, the contractor is required to pay Procurement Australia a rebate in accordance with the deed. Now, knowing that there's two types of categories in this contract, the rebate for this contract is defined of at least 0.01 per litre of sales plus GST for bulk fuel products. And then we've also got the 2.2% GST exclusive sales for other products, tanks and services. Over to the next slide. And of course, as illustrated on the screen, this shows how the process from signing a contract with Procurement Australia, then how to invoice the supplier and reporting monthly rebates to Procurement Australia. You work down, work up, so forth. Now, this screen we talk about tender hints. Most of these are very obvious, but just to show you what's most important for us is to answer each question. These, of course, refer to the schedules I mentioned earlier. Each criteria will have a raft of questions. When you do answer them, please don't refer to attachment. It's best you outline, respond to that question. And if you do have attachments, obviously link that up to your question. Clearly articulate your responses and demonstrate expertise. Even though we may know you, we do look at it as face value. Use charts, numbers when suitable, and don't use abbreviations. Noting some of that is you're the subject matter experts and we may not be aware of what those abbreviations mean. So would love you to have your best foot forward. So next slide. What's next? As mentioned earlier, draft specifications are available for review and feedback until 23rd of August. Just email myself if you'd like a copy, and we'll get that out sooner than later. The request for tender will be available from download. This is when the tender is let from the 18th of September, and that will only be available via Tenderlink. So just make sure if you haven't already, set an account that you do register with Tenderlink website prior to downloading the RFT. My contact details are on the screen for those who are particularly not familiar with myself, and take a moment to write that down. The next screen. Of course, I'm going to open the floor to any questions. Obviously, thank you for attending today, and I do look forward to your tender submission. If you would like to ask a question now, please do so. Open the floor for you. If not, quite happy to take individual calls later. So I'll just give you a moment to have a think about if there are any questions you would like to raise with me today.
Hey Elise, it's Matthew from Ampol. How you going?
Oh, good, Matthew. How are you going?
Just a question on the tender release and the tender close date. Looks like it's about 4 weeks between, like in that period. That's fairly tight for us.
Yeah.
Given the review of legal documents, etc.
Sure.
Is there any chance that can be maybe blown out or?
Yeah. Look, if you, again, this is why it's brilliant to have this session. If you could propose some preferred amenable times.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, respect where you're coming from too. So yeah, put that forward and definitely we'll look at that. I'll pack in what I can for sure.
Yep. No, that's fine. Easy. Probably the close date's fine. Probably if we could maybe bring the release date forward or something like that. But I'll put some preferred. I mean, obviously the more time we have, the better. But yeah, no, I understand you guys are working with him.
Yeah. No, I respect where you come from too.
Yep.
We could move it from both ends, but yeah, we've got the current contract now, so we're looking to make sure we warm up to the next one within a good time. But yeah, it definitely just everybody that's online, if you have some input, just let me know. And obviously I'll take it up further up the food chain and see how we can make that easier.
And just another question: are you envisaging any changes, like to the contracts and things? Will it be very similar or the same as the last contract?
Yeah, I mean the deed. We've got obviously the deed that should be similar, but again, yeah, we'll work. The most important thing, of course, we've got the specification that's changing a bit, but it's not at this stage. Well, I can't say for sure. So once we get all the feedback from yourself, we'll make sure that we make it easy to respond to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
The formatting is very similar, so at least it flows easier.
Yep. No worries. Thank you.
Good question. Oh, you're welcome. If anybody else has anything to say, or if you have a think about anything, oh geez, I've got something else, please touch base with me. And I want to make this it's a popular contract. Let's just make it the best one and even better. No further questions. I'll look to wrap this up now. Reach out if you want some documents. You know where I am. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.